Okay, so hi everyone, and thanks for coming to the Food and Comfort and Comics panel.
Yay.
Yay! Really excited
Yay.
to be with you all to talk about food and your relationship with it and what's been going on with you lately, etc. So, would you like to just go through some intros and just introduce yourselves and where you're based and what kind of comics you've made? Starting with Jade.
Oh, hi. Okay. Yeah. Hi, my name is Jade. I am a cartoonist and illustrator based in Maryland, DC area. I am currently working on a middle grade graphic novel with Scholastic called Coral. I've self-published a lot of comics, including Half Moon Heroes, and I'm currently working on thematically appropriate a little activity slash coloring zine with capybaras called Capybara Cafe, and it has it's capybaras in a cafe, and so sorry, what else was I supposed to say?
That's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
okay. Yeah, that's what's up with me right now.
Cool, cool. And I guess Shin can go next.
Yes, hi. I'm a cartoonist based in Los Angeles. I largely do autobiographical memoir work, although I'm currently working on a middle grade graphic novel with Kokila Penguin Random House about a logging cook camp in 1885 in the Sierra Nevadas. And then some of my previous books, I actually brought them so I wouldn't forget, is Say It With Noodles, a book about food and food as a love language. And The American Dream, which is a road trip memoir that came out last year about driving all of Route 66 with me and my dog.
Oh, fantastic.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, Wendy, go ahead.
Cool. Hi, my name is Wendy. I am based out of Brooklyn, New York, and I am the illustrator of Mooncakes, which is a young adult fantasy graphic novel that just came out last October with Lion Forge Comics. I also do a lot of short comics. My most recent work is that I just put out on Gumroad is called The Forest Prince. It's about a girl who kills someone and runs off into the woods to kiss a hot devil man.
I would do the same.
Yeah, and then,
it's so good.
And then I also cook a lot of food. So
Rad. Yeah, James too. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm James. I'm a writer, only writer, based in Los Angeles. I did a book a couple years ago, which just finished recently, actually, called Nutmeg with my friend Jackie Crofts, about two teenage girls who build a criminal empire in their school with their addictive brownies, which is sort of my first food comic, I guess. And then 3 years ago, my friend Josh and I did a book called Contact High, a queer sci-fi action love story set in a future where human touch is like a drug. And right now I'm working on a book called Lupina, which is about a little girl who's orphaned and found and raised by a wolf, and they go on a quest for revenge, which will be coming out from Legendary Comics.
Nice. And I guess to touch on me, my name is Pearl. I'm based in Vancouver, BC, Canada land, and I primarily work in animation as a story artist, but I'm also an illustrator and comics artist. I tend to make comics about self-love and race and culture. Currently, I'm working on a new synopsis for a graphic novel that I can't really talk about too much, but I enjoy cooking and I enjoy drawing and painting food a lot, so I'm very excited about today.
Yay!
Your food photography is so
oh
good,
my God,
Pearl.
it looks
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
Every time I see your posts on Twitter, I'm just like, I'm dying. I'm so hungry.
That makes me happy and super effective. Okay, so I guess we could talk about each person's relationship with food and cooking.
Same order?
Same order, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I guess my internet handle and brand is Dumpling Owl, and that's because I collect owl things and I make dumplings with my family, and it's kind of a big cornerstone of family gatherings for for me. So I think that that's like when I do comics work and approach food, that's kind of always the I guess what I go back to is making dumplings with my family from scratch. So I think that food for me, the process of making food in a lot of ways is kind of connecting with the people I share it with. And the process of making food is kind of similar to the creative process. At least I draw parallels from it when I'm cooking and drawing. So that's kind of, I guess, how I approach I guess the recipes that I go back to often.
Brad.
My relationship with food is somewhat complicated. I have a bit of a history with disordered eating, and I only really learned to enjoy cooking about like 6 or 7 years ago. I mean, I knew how to cook, but it was always a very incredibly utilitarian thing. Like, you know, I liked food and I ate it, but cooking was utility. It wasn't joy. And the big thing that changed about 6 or 7 years ago is that I started having to cook for really large groups, which is my installation art crews. I just needed to feed them. So I was feeding like 10 to 20 people, and that, and really falling into the logistics of cooking for large groups, really changed my relationship to cooking in a way that it became like a truly enjoyable thing. And now I cook almost every meal, and I love cooking. And it has actually like really helped me to heal my relationship to food as well.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this today, actually. This like one of my first memories about food and cooking is when I was 9 and I was working the deep fryer by myself. My mom left me like a baggie of frozen egg rolls to heat up for an after school snack. So I would make my egg rolls and eat them, and then go pick up my sister from daycare with my bike. It's like a very like immigrant kid, you know, the story, I guess. But I remember that's when I started and then from then on I would kind of like nose at my mom in the kitchen and be like, what are you making? How are you making this? But I didn't really start like actively trying to learn how to cook better until a few years ago, because like until a few years ago I only knew how to make maybe like 5 or 6 dishes, and those I did really well, but they were just like a constant rotation of things that I ate. And it wasn't until I discovered Manchi's YouTube channel that I started learning how to use all of these ingredients that like my mom had used when I was a kid, and really learning how to utilize them, because they always seem so intimidating. But I think watching Manchi on YouTube really demystified a lot of the process of like cooking my own ethnic food. And since then, I've just really been all about like exploring new recipes and new techniques. I'm no longer intimidated by like cooking things that I don't know are going to turn out perfectly.
That's great growth.
Yeah, we love to see it.
Am I next? Yes. I have an interesting relationship with food, I think, where I could make stuff. I didn't learn how to cook properly until I was in college. And even then I wasn't doing a ton of cooking. I think there were a lot of places to eat around campus when I was in school. And so I feel like I didn't have to really learn. And it wasn't until after I finished school, I went to teach overseas for a couple years. And I was trying things and messing up and stuff. And a friend of mine, she got me a cookbook, just like it was like the Working Parents Cookbook or something, very simple things to make. And so I started using that, and that had a whole bunch of different things that I'd never seen before, never tried before. And so, a couple of days a week, I would go to the grocery store and buy a couple of things and try to make a few things from that. And that kind of led to me loving cooking. But I live alone. I'm single or whatever. But so I do a lot of, if it's just me myself, sometimes I'll cook, sometimes I won't cook, but I like to cook for other people. I like to cook for friends. So if we're meeting friends for dinner or something, or having like something at someone's house, then I will be more receptive, I guess, to making a bunch of food in that regard. Where if it's just me, I'll just throw something together. So it's kind of a weird thing, I think, to kind of put out there in that way, I think, but because especially now, it's hard to see friends and cook for them. So now I'm trying to like experiment with new things so that whenever I meet my friends again, I'll have those things in my repertoire, I guess.
That's true. It's funny how, like, I guess community really does kind of shape your relationship with food, whether that's with like one other person or like with a group of people, like Shing was saying. Just like cooking for other people really like makes that kind of experience and relationship with cooking really unique. For me personally, like I know like my relationship with cooking has been really tied to my culture and been kind of like my only like strong line of connection to that. So I've like had like a tight grip on like cooking and what it means to me, and like trying to learn different spices and where things come from regionally and stuff like that, just to learn more about myself. So I've definitely used cooking as a tool for that for me. And I think, yeah, like as I've gotten older, I've definitely dived deeper into, exploring more about it. And it's been really fun. Yeah, definitely been fun. Very cool. Yeah, sorry, James, I don't know if you wanted to take the next question. Or...
Oh, yes. Actually, I don't. Sorry, I'm full screen. Hang on.
Oh, no, it's okay.
No,
That's
you're good. Yes. Next question is. Here we go. Sorry. I just had it up. Sorry.
You good?
I was definitely thinking of what you were saying in terms of like cooking as ties to your culture. And weirdly enough, like I feel like I kind of took so much food for granted because I grew up in my own culture. I grew up in Malaysia. And when we finally immigrated to America, it was a very like clear disconnection. Like it was an immigrant experience, yeah, but I didn't really have any other like Chinese Malaysian friends. I still don't. So learning to cook those foods, it definitely is like such like a real link. And I do feel like I really leveled up as an Asian when I figured out what the spices actually were in 5-spice powder. It's just like, oh, right. Yeah.
There are truly 5 spices.
5 of them.
Okay, I'm set. Next question, I guess. How have quarantine and social distancing affected your relationship with food and cooking, if they have at all?
Yeah. So I think that part of also my relationship with food that pre-pandemic, I don't actually think I cooked that often, or as often as I do now, simply because I actually also enjoy going out to restaurants. And I think that, I grew up with a family who all my like aunts and uncles and parents, they worked in the restaurant industry, like they owned Chinese restaurants. So I grew up in kind of my family's Chinese restaurants. So for me, like I think that, and in my family too, they also whenever we have guests and stuff, oftentimes it's a balance between cooking for them but also taking them out, because it's a show of generosity in my family. And like the many times that get stuck in between my mom and an auntie like fighting over the check and stuff, that's all part of the experience of going out to restaurants. So I enjoyed, like pre-pandemic, I really enjoyed going to, I guess, like my favorite haunts, but also taking friends out to local places that I really enjoyed, and that has totally changed. So I feel like I find myself actually kind of cooking more, but also being more, I guess, experimental in my cooking now. I think that I had a set rotation of like my favorite recipes that I would cook often before the pandemic. And now I'm kind of branching out a bit, because there are certain things that, I would get at restaurants that I can't get now, that I'm like, well, I might as well try cooking it at home. Also been eating more leafy greens and just vegetarian in general, because I feel like I don't know, at some point, I think that in the beginning of the quarantine, we were definitely cooking things that were more meat heavy. And then at some point I had an internal switch. I'm like, you know what? I'm craving leaves. So now I'm just going to eat leaf.
Very cool.
My personal relationship with food is largely the same. I still like it. I cook almost every meal now. So mostly what it is that my level of respect for food service workers is now God tier. Like we let ourselves get delivery like once a week, and at this point I'm like compulsively tipping 50% because it's like, you know what, any food that I don't personally cook is the best food in the world. Despite the fact that, you know, I've become a really good cook, and there's definitely a lot more improvisation. I mean, I was already quite improvisational, but now we have a weekly CSA delivery, and it's like, cool, green garlic. Which part is the skin and which part is the garlic part? I don't know. Let's toss it in a pan and find out. I found out, by the way, that you still can't really eat the skin.
But now you know because you experimented.
Yeah.
I have also gotten a lot more improvisational with cooking since the quarantine started. I've been really obsessed with making the perfect pot of beans because I watched Carla Lolly Music on Bon Appetit make these beans that looked amazing. So I really wanted to try making these beans too. And the first few times I made the beans, they were good, but they were entirely too salty. But it was only in the last 2 pots that I've gotten these beans to the place where I'm like, I don't want to order this at a restaurant. Like, I don't want to order beans anymore because I can make them so well. But yeah, we also, we go to the store like once every 2 weeks, but we also get like Asian grocery delivery from a local place in New York. And I was so excited to get these Okinawan purple sweet potatoes from that was on their spreadsheet, that I just wanted to like eat it to see what it tasted like, because it's definitely been fun. And it's also the most exciting part of my day when I'm like sitting down to eat. I think it's like when you make something that's so good, you're like, oh, this should be illegal. It's so good. But I think that's a thing that truly brings me joy these days, is making really good food.
That's so special, and that's definitely something that you need, or like we all need right now during these times, is just to, you know, do things that make us really happy, however small, however big, even if it's just like, eating your own cooking and being like, this is so good.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels good to just be like, oh man, I'm great at this. I'm a boss in the kitchen. I mean, like the flip side is that, you know, there are plenty of times where I feel like, oh, I fucked up, and I'm like, wow, I'm like, how did I, like, you know, mess up something so easy? Well, no one needs to know because you're under quarantine.
I mean, I find myself like definitely reviewing my own food a lot more too. And my partner also reviews my own food and like jokingly gives me a Yelp review.
Oh, mine knows better.
It's so funny. I don't know. Should I talk about my? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like,
tell us.
Yeah.
Tell us your
So
secrets.
I guess, like what Jade was saying about, you know, going out and kind of doing that whole ritual of, you know, being in not a formal setting, but just being in a different environment, sitting with, you know, your friends and kind of like breaking bread basically, is something that I do miss. And quarantine has definitely changed that. I had in the past, like I have always cooked my own meals, and like brought my own lunches to work and stuff like that. So it hasn't really been that big of a change. Whereas I know some people like ate out a lot during the week and then like only cooked on the weekends. So the transition for that on that part hasn't really been that huge. But I also feel like I'm kind of steering towards more of a vegetarian diet. I don't know. I'm just not craving meat right now. I don't know if it's just because I want to eat things that are lighter because I'm not moving as much either. Like, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know if it's the weather where it's like it's hotter, so I want lighter things. But I also do find myself experimenting, eating more leaves. Definitely finding myself getting sick of my own cooking. Just because, yeah, because I'm just like, oh, thank you. I'm sick of it.
Teleport some this way.
Send us some.
I'll send some in the mail. Freshness not guaranteed.
I definitely. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go on.
I definitely feel like I've learned to appreciate how much the price point of something in a restaurant is like more because we've been cooking so much. Like I got these the hollow heart vegetables, which are really long and have a lot of leaves, and to prep them you have to pick off all the leaves, wash all the leaves, and then trim the stems and wash all the stems and trim those, because like the wholesale price of hollow heart is it's like pretty much the same as any other leafy green, and we always were like, why does this cost so much? But now that I've prepared it myself, I'm like, okay, I will pay like even more for this because it's so time consuming and labor intensive to prep. So
right.
Yeah, I found that one of the things that I found is that there are certain a set of like kind of ingredients that I'll get, but then it's like, how many different ways can I prepare this using similar but like maybe overlapping ingredients so that it doesn't get boring. But there are certain kind of things that I think that pre-quarantine I might have been more predisposed to be like, okay, I'm gonna set aside some time to just make this more arduous thing. But strangely enough, I feel like during quarantine, maybe it's because also like, you know, the feeling of work day versus like, you know, self-time is all like more mushed together. So I feel like I need to be more, I guess, practical with my time in the kitchen. So like there are certain things that I feel like are just too labor intensive that I'm like, unless I'm making like, you know, a special event for this thing, then probably wouldn't. Like I have not actually made a beef noodle soup in a while. I used to do that from scratch a lot, but just the kind of the labor intensiveness of it and the time intensiveness of it, it's not as practical to do now, actually.
Right. I feel like everyone's capacities are kind of changing because of what's going on with the pandemic. So I could totally see how like, yeah, just your energy has shifted, and how much you're willing or able to, you know, put into a dish has changed. So that totally makes sense.
Yeah, I think like for me, I know I usually, I mean, pre-pandemic, I ate out quite a bit, but a lot of it was I have like a group of friends here, and we make comics in different formats or different ways, whatever, and that's kind of how we would connect. I mean, we have like, you know, group chat and so on, but that was like our, okay, let's go to this restaurant we found or someone heard of. We'll all meet there and we would talk about kind of what's going on in our lives, what's going on with things we're working on, as sort of like a catch up session. And that would happen. It was pretty random. It wasn't like a set every week we do this or every other week, but just having that sort of, even as loose as it was, that kind of routine. Food was what brought us there, or food was what connected us there. Excuse me, but it was more than that. Obviously, the community, and it's not the same doing it through Zoom or through Skype or through, you know, Google Chat, and so that's been difficult. I think just to be able to have a space to literally break bread together, to do that, and so where I'm cooking at home, I will try to make some like Jade was saying. I'll try to make some things at home that that maybe like a restaurant we would have gone to, like, oh, let's go get, you know, Japanese curry. Okay, can I make Japanese curry at home? I can. And so I try to do things to kind of make up for that, to sort of have that same vibe at home that I can't get outside at a restaurant or whatever.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. And just, I guess like the next question is just, is there something that any of you have been craving that, you know, you couldn't get a hold of, or like you have tried to replicate it at home, like James was saying? Has that been the case for any of you?
I just made aloo gobi. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely ordered this. It's funny because tonight, after this, or ordering Indian, and I'm getting a palak paneer delivered too. But yeah, it was my first time making aloo gobi. It turned out pretty well. It just was a little bit on the hard side because I tried not to make it soggy. Other things that I've been craving that I haven't attempted but is on my list of things to make is a cheesecake. So I was the other day it was just Alex and I were really tempted to order from Cheesecake Factory. But I looked at their like food menu, you know, their actual dinner menu, and I'm like, you know, none of this actually looks good. Can I just order like 3 cheesecakes? But it was so expensive. And I'm like, I know the quality of kind of like everything other than the cheesecakes at Cheesecake Factory is not going to be, in my mind, like, you know, worth that price. And also you're basically being scalped by these like delivery apps. So I just kind of got bad. I'm like, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to just like spend all this much money just for like 3 slices of cheesecake. I can probably make cheesecake at home. And that's been kind of like on my mind for a while. So my next project is figuring out how to make cheesecake. Other things that's like not really like, I guess, replicatable at home because the experience is different is I super miss hot pot, like with people. Yeah, I'm sorry. I really miss hot pot.
Straight to the heart.
I know, I'm sorry.
For me, it's sushi. It's just like really fresh sushi, like, you know, a minute after the chef has just made it. Like it's just, I mean, you know, delivery, like there's no delivery sushi that rises up to the level of good sushi, and like I can't make it myself. I mean, I can get raw fish, but it's still not right. And yeah, it's definitely sushi.
Oh, I miss Korean fried chicken. I can definitely make fried chicken at home, but it's such a pain. I hate heating up the oil and then it spatters everywhere. But I hate just like breading the chicken and like double frying it and then making the sauce for it. It's so labor intensive. I've made it before and it came out really good. But it's something that I'm willing to pay like premium for, especially if it's good fried chicken. And like a burger, like a nice burger.
Oh, we made burgers at home. Like we made cheeseburgers at home the other day and it was really good.
Oh my god.
Like, yeah.
Delicious.
Like our local market actually has like, they get these like packs of burger patty, like local beef patties just at the market, and it's like a local Maryland farm and it tastes great. So, but yeah, like, you know, it's like, you know, you're making, it's definitely, like, you know, it's better than Five Guys. So, and you can control, like, you know, the doneness of it and everything. It's just like very simple kind of cheeseburger. It was super fast too. Like Alex made it in 30 minutes. So burger night. Yeah.
Burger night is like my treat night. That means he's cooking. Because he's like, I'll go grill. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I was kind of echo what Shing was saying earlier. Sushi was mine. I bit the bullet last week, and there's a place by I work from home now, but my day job is a place down the street, and they're doing, you know, takeouts. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it, and I went, and it was like an emotional experience because I go there quite a bit. Like I was one of the first like 3 customers they had, so they like remember me. And I haven't seen people who know me in person in so long.
No.
It was like, they're like, James, and I was like, I was just like, yeah. So they're like, oh, let's get your number so we can call you when we get new stuff. And I was like, it was just this magical experience. And so I ordered so much sushi, and it made everything worth it. But there's no way I was going to try to make it at home. But I did make last week. I made tonkatsu because there's an artist, Diana Hugh, who is an artist out here in California, and she on her Instagram did like a step-by-step, like with drawings, illustrations of her making tonkatsu, and so it was pretty easy to follow. And I was like, I can do that, and so that was one thing that I was craving that I had never tried to make at home before. And so it's the breaded pork loin, deep fried. It turned out really well, actually. So that was one thing I was able to actually make at home that I definitely could have gotten out somewhere, but
That's pretty good. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
right?
Tonkatsu, like it's definitely ramen. Like tonkatsu ramen is like just the various steps of it is so like arduous that I've never actually tried attempting it at home.
I
Yeah.
have tried, but I couldn't get that white broth.
Oh,
I
I know the secret.
And I scrubbed them, and they still weren't clean enough.
I know the secret. You have to get a huge bone, like the shoulder bone, and you just have to boil it for like 9 hours.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I think that's like, yeah.
This is why we pay.
Yeah, exactly. Because like they already have the vats of broth that's been stewing forever.
I know this because I just finished making a big pot of stock this past week with the pork shoulder bone and all these chicken bones that I've been saving. But you can just put them in frozen from the freezer in the pot with like an onion and some ginger, and you just gotta let that cook for like hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty good.
Yeah.
And we're all like, whoa.
Whatever. I feel like I'm about to like run out of like the pork bone broth that I had prepared last month. So I'm about to like make more broth too. But making broth is it's a double-edged sword because it's like, it smells so great and you're forever hungry because it's like 12 hours of the entire apartment smelling like awesome food.
Oh, if you want to reduce your broth making time, I don't, because I just was too lazy to transfer between 2 pots, but you could pressure cook it in the Instant Pot for about an hour first, and that'll reduce your cooking time total by like maybe 2 or 3 hours.
Pro tips.
Yeah,
seriously. This panel's great.
Right? Taking notes. For me personally, I feel like the one thing that I haven't been able to recreate, and I don't think that I could ever because it takes a lot of skill, is dim sum. I really miss various dim sum dishes, and takeout is not the same. You need it fresh out of the fryer or fresh out of the steamer. When you get it at your door, it's not the same.
Yeah, it's the fine kind of like handiwork of
exactly
various dim sum.
There's gotta be
Yes.
Yeah.
There's also gotta be like an auntie yelling aggressively at you. Like, do you want this? Do you want this?
The whole experience.
Oh, my local cart dim sum places are all really nice.
Right. Okay, so right now, do you feel like the quarantine and social distancing has affected your creative process at all?
Yeah, I miss going to cafes, and that's why I'm doing this activity scene that's about a cafe, because I honestly just miss that atmosphere. And it originally my plan was just, I'm gonna do this. It's gonna be like play tested by my younger cousins of the family, because that's initially why I did this, but because I wanted to make a thing for my cousins and their being stuck at home all day with 3 kids type of thing. But then, so it originally was just going to be coloring and a little, some activities like mazes or something. But then as I was working on it and was just kind of thinking about my own experiences with cafes and whatnot, a narrative popped up. I think that's the curse of just being a cartoonist in general. It's and now there's a story. So there's a story in this activity scene and whatnot. And yeah, it's large. It's about kind of taking things one step at a time when honestly you don't know where you're going with your life right now. But also just kind of being in a cafe environment that it's kind of a nice little pocket fantasy. That's what cafes kind of bring to me anyways, of being able to take a step away from the overwhelming sense of the world, but also being able to do creative work at a cafe. Yeah, so that's one big thing. It's I think there was something to be said about not even though like work from home before the pandemic, there's something to be said about, I feel like, not being stuck doing work where you also like sleep and rest. And I think being able to go to somewhere like a studio or a cafe to like be mentally shift, be like, okay, this is me entering work time and then coming back from that, and just honestly can't do that now. Also having to share the space with my partner, who has a much more intensive day job because it is impacted by the pandemic, and because he works in healthcare management, or peripherally related to healthcare with the government and whatnot. So for him, it's a lot of meetings, it's a lot of being on call, and a lot of what they talk about is all COVID related. It's a lot of that lingo. So constantly kind of hearing that in the background, it's a lot.
Right, right.
I am less productive. I am less creative. I am stressed and anxious all the time.
Oh no.
At the beginning of all this, I was kind of like, okay, I'm in the coloring part of my book, so this should be nice and brainless, and I'll just sit down and work on it. Yeah, no, I am so much less productive than I used to be. So, and as someone that like, you know, has always kind of like thought of productivity as one of my skill sets, like, you know, I literally have this on my arm. Yeah, it's not been great, but I think, you know, things are shifting back. I'm sort of slowly finding a new normal. So we'll see how the next weeks treat me. Maybe I might still turn my book in on time.
Crossing fingers.
Okay. I'm also way less productive, and like you, Shing, I've definitely always prided myself on being incredibly productive and being able to you know, do a bunch of work, a bunch of projects at once, teaching classes and all of this stuff. But I've also, I mean, the first few weeks were okay, but I mean, a lot of it was like me waiting for notes from my editor. So, but like usually when I'm waiting for notes, I have a side project, and this time it was just really hard for me to focus on that side project. And it was for like a week, I just lay there and play Animal Crossing. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that's all I can do. And
Yeah.
it's just so hard to work on anything right now. And I'm still chipping away at my book, but I'm trying to be really nice to myself and say, if I don't hit my page count for the day, like, that's fine, you know. It's slow going. But yeah, I'm also kind of shifting back into a new normal, but that could change. I mean, some days I'm like, yay, I did 5 pages, and then, you know, other days I'm like, I literally just want to lie here and do nothing. And,
Yeah, that's so real. I also, I don't know if it's like, because I'm like super into astrology, so I'm like, I don't know if it's a Capricorn thing.
It's a Capricorn thing, because I don't know how you guys do it as a Pisces. I'm just like, I have like cannot multitask like 3 projects at once. And it's like, it's funny because, you know, you guys are talking about how like, oh yeah, I just played Animal Crossing. I've been to your islands. Your Animal Crossing islands are like, you know, like freaking Rome compared to like, you know, my so it's like, you know, they say Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, these Animal Crossing Romes are.
Yeah.
so. I think I put all of my creative reserves into Animal Crossing. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Like, even for myself, like, I also usually have multiple things going on. Like, I dip into animation, I dip into comics, and just right now, sometimes I just find it really hard to kind of push myself to get things done, to the level that I'm used to, you know, operating at. But like, I found that like cooking has been my new channel of like kind of like channeling my creativity in that way. And I don't feel like any pressure being like, oh my God, deadlines, because I'm cooking to like feed myself. It's not really, the pressure's different.
There is a deadline. Like, you,
it could burst into flames. This is true. But like, it's a different type of pressure, you know? And so, yeah, that's that's definitely like where I'm at, and I've been less productive for sure. Animal Crossing has been like the best thing right now. So
I did play Animal Crossing so hard that Smithsonian wrote about it. So that
Oh my gosh, Shing, your Animal
I
Crossing
saw
is
that.
legendary.
Yo.
Legendary. It's amazing. Yeah. So
That's
like, wait,
amazing.
Shing, are you a Capricorn too?
You know, I'm actually not. I'm a Leo, which
Gang, gang.
Team Leo.
It's like that's the performance art makes sense.
So funny. James, you were saying something? Or?
Oh no, I think echoing what everyone was saying, my productivity has gone down the tubes. I think the thing I'm working on now, that I have an editor for, and like Wendy was saying, like I'll get notes, or I'm waiting on notes, and so it's like, okay, I can work on this other thing, and then I don't. I'll just fire up the PlayStation and play something for too long. The thing I think that's been difficult for me is that like my productivity normally just goes in waves anyway. It's not, I don't have like, okay, sit down and write today. It's like, okay, this weekend I'm writing 12 pages or 16 pages or whatever, and then like burnt out. And then that's kind of how it goes. But because I'm working from home and I usually have a commute, my commute is where I think of things, where the ideas come, where like, oh, I can't wait to get home so I can work on this thing, because I'll get the ideas as I'm stuck in traffic or whatever. And so now my commute is like, 12 feet to my living room where I have the work computer set up. And so I don't have that space to think that I usually would, or that time to think in the same way. And I mean, I haven't listened to a podcast in like 2 months because I don't have podcast space time, because I don't, again, I'm no illustrator at all. I just write. And so I can't listen to people talking as I'm working, even on creative stuff. So it's been hard for me, I think, in that regard, where the space that I usually would have, it's like people get ideas in the shower or whatever. It's the same kind of thinking, is that like, driving to or from work, that's when I'm, that's when those things start firing, and I don't have that anymore. So it's been difficult in that regard.
God, it was only today that I was able to articulate like the absence of liminal spaces as something that actually like affects creativity. Like we don't have time that doesn't count anymore. Like there's no commute time, there's no airport time, there's no time that, primary purpose is just waiting. We don't have that. So it's weird and it sucks. And I think that has really affected creativity.
Yeah. I think that's also contributed to why, I mean, I'm a huge night owl normally anyways, but I think that's also contributed to how my sleep schedule has gotten even more messed up, because there are just times where you're in between waking and sleeping that's when I'm thinking. And I'm just like laying in bed, daydreaming about like, some comic idea or another like kind of, character idea and whatnot. So I don't know. It's kind of, it feels like because everything's all mushed together, and then there's this like repeat effect of every day, like that I feel like, you don't have that in between time to just really kind of breathe as well, let your mind breathe, let your brain kind of take a breath. So
that's really true, because I used to leave the house a lot, like even though I work, even though like I am self-employed now, I used to have to leave 3 times a week at the very least, 2 times to go teach my classes and 1 time, to go to my personal trainer. And I would, like, sitting on the subway, I would force myself to just not do anything, to just like chill out. So I definitely, I'm feeling that loss of like liminality, or just like of that in between space. That's a really good point, Shane.
Yes, I agree. Sorry, I was just like, I never really thought about like the pace of life being changed in that way, where I'm like, just having those breaks, having those spaces of time.
Well, also those shifts between like, our professional faces and our like personal lives, where, you travel to go teach. There is a switching time between between like, you know, home person and
Mhm.
outside person. And now there isn't anymore. Like the moment this ends, I'm gonna go from like professional Shing to like couch Shing in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
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 The I know we're actually kind of in a similar vein. This next question. I know a number of you I've seen or met at comic conventions, and those are spaces where you get to reconnect with people in ways you couldn't necessarily do remotely. Have you found any techniques to maintain connections like that in this time?
I've been spending a lot of time on Discord. Like I think just the Discord chat channels that I'm in, a lot of which is actually Animal Crossing Discord. I think has been, I guess, my primary means of maintaining connections with people that I usually see only at conventions. Yeah, and I think that I am starting to stream more regularly now, but it's also been 2 years since I last started streaming regularly. So a part of it is disheartening because it feels like I have to build up I guess, my connections from ground zero again, or getting like kind of, just, I guess, that schedule out there to be like, hi guys, like I'm streaming, come hang out. And it's like, please come and chat with me while I work, type of thing. And it's hard to get people to move from platforms to platforms. So it's been kind of a struggle between kind of wanting to upkeep kind of professional productivity, and also connecting with your peers through only digital means. I think between like friends that I'm like friendship level, like 5 type of thing, we make time to do things like Netflix party and whatnot. But I think for people that I would only usually see at conventions, Discord and maybe streaming are so far the only ways that I've managed. So
Yeah, I'm fairly similar. I think the biggest, like again, I'm a Leo. The biggest part I've been missing is like talking to people that like my work. At conventions, I feel like, my friends, the people I see, like, we're still connected via like Twitter and Discord and whatnot. But like I've been putting more work into sort of, building my own community of people who all have like things in common, even though it's not necessarily comics or art. I started a Discord for my Patreon subscribers like the day the stay-at-home order went into effect. And it's been like a really nice, vibrant community of really like supportive people. And it's not a professional space. It's just kind of like a nice, chill space. And we've coordinated like, mailing rocks to each other and postcard exchanges. And I now do a weekly stream with a bird mask on, with the oracle bird, where I just tell fortunes online.
that's so
It's a bit
cool.
like
That's so cool.
like actually I have the mask right here. It's that.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I do.
Wow.
Oh, I love it. Oh my
Um,
god.
So cool.
And we'll do it with like vintage, like, vintage Lenormand cards or like invented divination systems. And I feel like that's kind of been a nice like point of connection outside of, comics, art, work. Just, bunch of people goofing off on just something else, anything else.
Talking to people on like the Animal Crossing Discord has definitely been helpful, because a lot of them are like cartoonists and authors and people I would normally see in professional settings. But just like play Animal Crossing with everyone has been really nice. Otherwise, honestly, I think like I'm one of those people where I'm like, I just don't want to talk to anybody. Like, and that's okay, like I'm trying to let myself take time for me, because, if I'm going to be bad company, like on a Zoom chat, then it's just going to affect everybody in a negative way. So I'm just trying to notice when I'm feeling like cranky or I want to be alone and just like letting myself have alone time and not feeling pressured to socialize. Because honestly, like I hate Zoom. Like I have to teach a class on Zoom, and it's just so different from being in my classroom with my students. And like the kids feel very differently as well. Like the energy is just different than when we're all sitting down in the high school library together. So and it's been tough. It also is really weird. I read somewhere that it's kind of unnatural when you can see yourself all the time, so you can't just like make a face that you normally, if someone says something off in a meeting. So it's just, it's hard. And I've been kind of coming to terms with the fact that maybe I just don't want to talk to anybody. I tried streaming for a bit, and then I was like, this is fun. And then I was like, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah. Streaming takes out, like, it's a different energy. And that, like, I have to have things that is set aside for, that's like things that I can stream, and then things that it's certain artworks that I cannot stream, because I can't talk to people on chat and also like kind of do that work at the same time, particularly if it's anything like thumbnailing and whatever, that's planning work. I can't stream because there's a performance aspect to streaming, and that takes out a different energy. Yeah, and it's like, I'm sure, like, it's probably not particularly entertaining to watch me like redraw a figure sitting at like a chair in 5 different ways on stream, for like 2 hours either. But those are the type of things that you start kind of like being worried about when you're streaming too, and it just takes a different energy. And that can wear you down. So
I am redoing all the pages that I inked on the stream.
Oh no. Yeah.
Because I felt like I was too preoccupied trying to like entertain people that I looked at the pages now and I'm like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
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 Definitely. For me, oh my gosh, like I've been so absorbed into everyone's thing. I'm like, wait, what was the question again? Wait, James, what was the question again?
Oh wait, yes. No, the question was a lot of times we meet at conventions and stuff. People you usually see. Do you have any techniques that you've been using without that convention space?
Okay, right. Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, no worries,
I'll keep it quick because we only have 10 more minutes left.
Okay. No worries.
But I typically don't really go to conventions nowadays. I've been kind of taking a break from them just because I feel like they've been really energetically draining for me personally. But that being said, not being able to, like, say, meet people in studio when I work as a storyboard artist or whatever has really left me feeling kind of like weirdly like floaty. I don't get to make those connections. I don't get, especially when I'm like right now I'm working on Craig of the Creek, and it's like a new show, a new team, a new studio for me, but I'm not there in person, and so just not being able to make those connections, but like via Zoom we are kind of is different. It's not the same. Discord has come through. Animal Crossing has come through.
Animal Crossing
time
is
and
so
time again.
essential.
essential for the care package. Yeah, right. But yeah, so it's been different. I've been trying to kind of adjust with this new way of connecting. It hasn't been very smooth, to be honest. And yeah, that's about it. So
I think for me, I'm like a natural introvert, even though I'm a Leo. I don't know if that.
Oh, me too.
But I love doing conventions because, in part because it's a way to see people I don't get to see very often. A lot of the people I work with in comics live in different states, different parts of the country, and so I only get to see them then. So we'll table together, and that's that energy of having someone at the table next to you, where you bounce off of each other, bounce ideas off each other, and then people come by your table, you pitch them, you talk to them about your books, talk about what they're working on. All that energy, all those things, those interactions you don't get in a Zoom, you don't get in a Discord in the same way. And so that's been really hard for me. It's also kind of weird because it's a year where through one way or another, we didn't get into some conventions we usually do. So this is a year where we wouldn't have been going, but now that we literally can't go, it makes it harder. Or maybe we would have gone to one or two that we didn't get into just to kind of see people. This has been difficult in that regard. I don't have a Switch. I looked for one a couple weeks ago. I was like, oh, the stimulus check is coming. Maybe I can like buy a Switch with it.
Expensive.
And
well, they're sold out.
You literally can't find one. Like,
Wait,
they're sold. They're sold
yes,
out.
No, yeah.
Like,
So I didn't want a light. I didn't want a portable one. I wanted like a console one. My friend sent me a link this morning. That's like, here's places you can still get the light one. So I'm looking into it. But so I've been following people's Animal Crossing stories.
Hold on for like a little bit if you can, because there's been rumors that they might announce a Switch Pro soon.
Listen.
Or something, and then that might impact the price of like the normal. But it's rumors right now. I can't
I'm not
don't
going
kill
anywhere.
me, Nintendo. Like,
I'm not going anywhere. But I will say that without a Switch or Animal Crossing, Netflix Party has been huge, because that is a time where I don't have to think about work or making stuff, and it's a way where, okay, like it's within in the absence of like one of those liminal spaces that Sting was talking about, it is a space of time where I don't have to do, it's not work time or making stuff time. It's a complete, it's an hour, whatever we're watching. It's a mini series or a movie. That's been really huge for me. Just kind of having that space to kind of goof around with friends as we watch something ridiculous. It's been good. So that's sort of my technique, I guess.
That's pretty good. Okay, so I guess we only have a few more minutes left. I guess just to wrap up, I don't know if you've already mentioned it or if you want to mention something else that you didn't talk about earlier, but what are you currently working on, and where can people find your work?
So I am Dumpling Owl on Twitter and Instagram, and you can also find my work on my website at dumplingowl.com. There is an online store on my website where I am selling some prints, some stickers. I am also streaming on twitch.tv/dumplingowl on Thursdays and Fridays. Catch me on stream. A lot of what I working on will be probably Animal Crossing related and animal related. Capybara Cafe is an activity zine / coloring zine that's going to come out hopefully next week. And it's going to be a digital download and also a, I guess what's the term for it? Like print to order or made to order available on my website. So
Nice.
I am Sawdust Bear on Twitter and Instagram. The book I'm working on won't be out until 2021, but I'm going to have a recurring column on Catapult soon called Curiosity Americana. That's about like discovering objects Americana and my relationship to them as an immigrant. And I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv Sawdust Bear on Tuesdays, 2 to 4 PST. And my other big project, I think, is going to be perfecting a Hokkaido milk roll.
Oh, nice. I love Hokkaido milk rolls.
You can find me on Instagram at Art of Wendy Shoe. That's also my website, artofwendyshoe.com. I'm on Twitter as Angry Girl Comics, and I am currently working on a 2021 middle grade book called Tide Song. It'll be out with HarperCollins. It is about a young girl who moves to the seaside and learns her family's magic, which is, there are dragons. It's kind of like my love letter to Hayao Miyazaki's work. But if you want my latest short comic, The Forest Prince, is on Gumroad, and that is kind of darker and more mature.
Hello, I am, oh boy, I use different alias everywhere I go, but on Twitter, Chuck Spear, ChuckSpear. That's, I think, where I'm most active. Instagram is Black Bolt Speaks, all one word. I am working on Lupina, Girl Raised by a Wolf. I am it'll be in 2 books. Book 1 is chapters 1 through 3, and then 4 through 6. I'm currently rewriting chapter 5 right now. Art by Liana Libushka. They're an artist out of Indiana. Their work is incredible. And I'm working on a pitch right now to reconnect me with my friend Jackie, who did Nutmeg with me, about a town at the end of a fantasy war that sort of rehabilitates people who fought in that war using magic and so on. I'm still working on the pitch, obviously, but working on that one right now. So
Nice. And for me, you can find my website at pearllo.com. On Twitter, I'm Fumi Chun, Fumi_Chun, FUMI_CHUN. On Instagram, I'm Fumi Chun without the underscore. On Twitter, I post a lot of food pics. I talk about Craig of the Creek a lot nowadays, just because I'm on the show storyboarding. I'm also working on a new synopsis for a graphic novel that I'm not going to talk about too much right now, but I'm also working on a Bible for an animated series that features roller derby, magical girls, and sword fighting. So I'm really excited for that. So look out for that on Twitter. And thanks everyone for talking with James and I about food and comfort and this time and how it's been treating you and all that stuff. So
this was a really good time. Thank you.
This
is
so
great.
Fun. Yeah.
Yay! Thank you.
I am so hungry now.
Same. Okay, and I will end this now.